So we got a pink-haired DEI trainer that's slamming Oregon forestry bosses. Yeah, people who work in the forest for hiring on the basis of merit, not gender or identity. Hiring based on the idea of merit. Hey, you do a good job, we'll promote you. You don't? Yeah. Yeah. Not based on which pronoun you might or might not identify by. Let's get into it. Here we go. So Megan Donaker says that she's an accomplice to marginalized communities. What does that even mean? I don't even know. She says queer forestry staff are not safe talking about pronouns at work. Is talking about pronouns, is that a big thing? I mean, yeah, in real estate, we don't really use pronouns ever. It's weird. I know. Yeah. No pronouns. We don't need them because we look at each other and we just kind of know. Hey, dude. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Pink-haired DEI trainer has slammed Oregon's forestry department for hiring on the basis of merit rather than identity. I'm doing this one because the forestry industry. I mean, you want to talk about a place where you got to be a little bit tougher, right? You just got to be a little bit tougher. You can't be a marshmallow and, forest fire's coming. I can't fight it. Megan Donaker filed a complaint about her former boss, Mike Shaw, and moaned about him telling her that he sought the candidates most qualified for the job. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Huh. You know, the argument that I always enjoy is, where are all of the short Asian women in the National Basketball Association? Where are all the short Asian women in the National Football League? I mean, there aren't any. That's discriminatory. No, it's not. Because, I mean, the argument is just so simple. You throw a bunch of even small Asian men into the National Football League. How's that going to work out? They're just going to get smushed, unless they're a punter or a kicker or something like that. You know what I'm saying? They're just going to get crushed. It's not a place where, where this whole, based on my pronoun, I got hired. That's not going to fly. It's just not going to fly. How about in modeling? How about the modeling industry? Men get paid a fraction of what women get paid. You know what I mean? OnlyFans, women make way more money doing OnlyFans than men do. The gay guys, they hold their own, but it's not the same, right? Just don't have a bunch of, red-blooded men who like to watch their porn and, I can see her naked. I'll pay $9.99 a month for that. You betcha. Nah, you know what I mean? So there's all these industries where you've got this thing where you need to be able to do what you're doing. And whether you go by a pronoun or not, yeah, don't really care. DE advocates like Donaker say hiring should be done through an intersectional lens, whatever that even means, whereby applications from people of marginalized backgrounds are given greater weight. No, they shouldn't be. Everybody on the same playing field, and those who exceed, those who do well, they're the ones that get the job, because that is the basis of competition, of how this works. Everything else is just putting a gun to your head and pulling the trigger because it's not going to work. No matter how you kid yourself, it is not going to work. You've got an inferior product. You could load up the NFL and the NBA with players that, don't belong there. And then you're going to have a program where people don't want to watch it. People have been just recently watching the WNBA because you've got incredible players like Caitlin Clark. And, people are like, hey, I want to watch that. And Angel Reese, whether you like her or don't like her, she's the villain. 6'3", 165 pounds, guaranteed she's more like 185 pounds. She's an outstanding rebounder of her own putback shot. That's Angel Reese, right? Both tremendous athletes, but prior to the WNBA having anybody worth watching, nobody wanted to watch it. That's why they get paid a fraction of the money. NBA, everybody wants to watch that. It's exciting. You got dudes that are, flying 11 feet high and the foot over the rim, dunking like there's no tomorrow. That's just more exciting. So they get paid more. That's kind of how this works, unfortunately. So whatever. Shaw, who earns $192,000 a year as deputy head of Oregon's Department of Forestry, has been put on leave over Doniker's complaint. I bet you there's a little something else in there too. Don't you think? Doniker, who worked at the department's diversity, equity, and inclusion chief, claimed 6 queer staffers didn't feel safe or comfortable at work because they could not have conversation around pronouns. Do you really need to be having a conversation at work, or are you there to get your work done? You know what I mean? Take your pick. This whole thing about, I don't feel safe, I don't feel comfortable. Yeah, well, how about when that forest fire is bearing down on you? How comfortable do you feel then? Oh, you're an office worker. Yeah. Okay. So whole thing, and planting trees and carrying heavy equipment. How about those dudes who go in there with the enormous chainsaws and just, do a little clear cutting, that kind of thing? That's called logging. But what I'm talking about is the ones that are going in. I follow one of my kids, my youngest son, Brennan, who's no longer with us. One of his friends works for, I believe, the Forest Service. Man, the work that they have to do is hard. And sometimes it's taking care of a trail somewhere, and they're way up way up on a mountain somewhere, and they're carrying these heavy tools. Yeah, they're not really having issues about feeling safe or comfortable at work because they could not have conversation around pronouns. They're getting some really hard work done. So yeah, you got to hire people based on their ability. Not what we, imaginary going to call them. The tattooed Salem resident describes herself as an accomplice in marginalized communities. Her complaint is one of several from employees and others that the department mounts to an old boys club. Well, you'd say that about a lot of industries. How about oil rigs? How many women do you see on oil rigs? Not a lot. You wouldn't see me on an oil rig. You ever watch those videos? They're fascinating. Man, those guys are, just covered in oil. It just looks like miserable, and they're hot and sweaty. And it's dangerous. You get killed, lose an arm, lose a hand, whatever. I mean, it just looks hard. It's just physically demanding, incredibly hard work. So is that an old boys club? Well, whatever. You need people to do those jobs, right? Since standing down from her role at the Forestry Department, she's continued working as a DEI consultant. I bet she has. Files released as part of a public records request by Oregon Live. State forestry chiefs say that they take the complaint seriously and are investigating whether anybody faced discrimination. This whole thing is just absurd. I face it daily here in Seattle. I mean, every time you turn around, somebody's like, I'm being discriminated against. Somebody called me the wrong pronoun. Who cares? I don't care. Who cares? Work it out. You're mental. Oregon's progressive governor, Tina Kotek, who was hit by a corruption scandal for hiring her wife, has also waded into the drama, with her office saying that she backs all efforts to advance DEI. Hard no-go. I'm a hard no-go on trans women playing in women's sports. Just, you know what I mean? That's just not right. And you want to have a whole trans league? Perfect. Go do that thing. Let the men play other men. Let the women play other women. And trans people play each other. Pretend all you want and do that. Oregon has been roiled by culture wars between progressives in such liberal cities as Portland and conservatives, including residents of the state's rural and forested eastern areas. A lot of trees. Who want to break away and join Idaho. Greater Idaho, right? Yeah. I mean, I can see why they want to do that. Because when you got to deal with this kind of nonsense, the whole pink hair, we all feel comfortable talking about our pronouns at work. It's like, why are you doing that anyway? Get your job done. Don't want to hear it from you. Yeah, here's a good photo. I mean, see, he's got folks out here. What are they doing? Are they replanting? I don't know. They're doing forestry stuff, whatever that might be. And huge industry. Got a lot of forest out there, right? A lot of trees, a lot of forest fire, that kind of stuff happens. And, these aren't necessarily the easiest jobs in the world. That's why you don't see a lot of people with the pink hair and severely overweight out there doing these jobs, because it's really hard. It's It's really hard. Donaker, who describes herself as an avid Dungeons and Dragons player who lives with her wife, Jai, an adopted 9-year-old, and 2 cats, quit her job at the department in March after falling out with bosses. You had a falling out with bosses in the forestry industry in Oregon. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I don't understand what the conflict could possibly be. It's bad for women at Forestry, Donaker said in an interview, but it's even worse if you are queer. Okay. All right. She filed her complaint against Mike Shaw and another manager earlier this year. Shaw was on paid administration since August 6, but officials have not revealed the reason for his absence. Donaker said managers sidelined her, undercutting her DEI efforts. Sounds like you got a little bit of back and forth going on here. She said she was cut from the Forestry leadership meetings without warning, maybe because she was saying crazy stuff. I don't know. An email from February appears to confirm this. In her complaint, Donaker said that cutting her from executive meetings sent the wrong message. No, I'm okay with that message. I cannot emphasize enough how far back this is going to set myself and the work that I'm trying to do. What work are you trying to do? Because all you've really mentioned to me is that you're concerned about your pronouns. And maybe in the forestry industry, you got folks where that ain't going to fly in Oregon. I don't know. I'm just saying. Private conversation with Shaw in March. Donaker says that they discussed DEI efforts of the department, which was responsible for some 16 million acres of public and private forest land and the state's largest fire department. All right, then we get into this guy. This guy right here. This guy's name is, Donaker accuses state forester Cal Mukimoto. I believe I got his last name right. I mean, that's not exactly a super straightforward English name like Jones. Just wanted to point that out. So we got Cal Mukimoto of making a slightly sexist joke at a work meeting. Here's the joke. He told her that an aggressive diversity hire push was like speeding on an icy road, she said. We don't go 60 miles an hour out of the gate or we're going to crash the car, she said Shaw told her during one of their one-on-one meetings on March 5th. So she really wanted to get into the whole DEI thing. And he's basically saying, you know what? We're going to pump the brakes just a scooch. Donaker said the department's overall culture amounted to a boys club. Yeah, we've heard that before. She described a meeting last year when state forester Cal Mukimoto, this dude right here, I mean, he looks like a good guy. He looks like, salt of the earth, right? When State Forester Cal Mukimoto made a joke about a woman colleague at a meeting, praising her by saying that she, here's the joke, puts in a really good lunch order. Now, some might take that as a compliment, meaning you know the food order. And if he said, hey, all she is good for is putting in a really good lunch order, that to me would be, probably not acceptable. You're criticizing somebody else. But when you just say puts in a really good lunch order, maybe it's the fact that you're wildly overweight and you realize that this is kind of a backhanded way of saying, hey, you know what? Put the fork down, walk a little bit more. Well, you live longer, something like that. Or, hey, she puts in a really good lunch order. She knows her food. She knows all the restaurants. She knows what to order from each of the restaurants. She can get it here. I mean, she can handle 3, 4, 5. She can handle like 10 orders for 10 different people. She puts in a really good lunch order. Know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think you do. I'm not trying to single her out, but that's not exactly the worst criticism that somebody could ever get, right? And if this is what you're bringing up, in my opinion, you got bigger problems. You got bigger fish to fry than, he said I put in a really good lunch order. Mikimoto then chuckled, and everyone kind of chuckled, said Donaker. Hey, they're laughing at me. I'm fat. They're laughing at me. I got pink hair. I go by pronouns that don't associate with what I really am, got plural when I'm singular person. Mikimoto then chuckled and everybody kind of chuckled. No one batted an eye. It didn't sound like it was malicious. Hey, he puts in a really good lunch order. Oh, I'm gonna file a complaint. The state's received about a dozen complaints against forestry chiefs this year, with Oregon's DEI culture not shocking, with some employees alleging a hostile culture towards women, lack of diversity, and a fear of retaliation. You know what? There's gonna be like the oil rig. You're not going to have a bunch of guys who are sitting around going, good Lord, I wish somebody'd give me a pronoun pin because I don't know what that dude's pronouns are. Hey, Jimmy, what are his pronouns? What's that guy's pronouns? What's that guy go by? There's just industry like that, right? There's a lot of that going out there. So is it a hostile culture towards women? It's just a culture that is what it is, and it's not necessarily hostile. But if you're coming in with pink hair and you're pretty overweight and you got a bunch of other things that paint you in a picture that doesn't exactly maybe go with the forestry industry, except at the corporate level, then you're going to have some problems. Brenda McComb, vice chair of the Oregon Board of Forestry, said officials had done little to grow diversity representation among its workforce or advisory committees and were not implementing a draft diversity plan. Most all big companies have gone away from the whole DEI thing, haven't they? I've stopped podcasting on those things because so many companies, you guys got bored with it. You guys got bored hearing about, oh yeah, one more company? Oh, yeah, okay, right. They just joined the other club of companies who were like, yeah, that was a failed experiment. It didn't really work in creating results because it doesn't really work towards creating results. It works towards making people who are delusional about what pronoun to use feel good about themselves. So, yeah, there's that. If progress is being made, it's not apparent to me, and it's not apparent to me, and it's not apparent to other members of the public. McComb, a retired Oregon State University official, wrote, I'm exhausted from being stonewalled in this issue by the agency and their unwillingness to consider this a priority. Sorry. Don't know what to tell you. Yeah, it's not going to be really a thing. And you know what? Other companies are saying, one after another, after another, after another. This isn't a thing. I mean, I could do the laundry list for you, but you know what they are. I'm hoping that you or the governor's office will begin to hold this agency accountable in this regard. No, I don't think so. We just move forward. Keep fighting those forest fires, boys. Keep planting those trees. Keep cutting the brush out. Whatever you do in forestry, maintain those millions of acres of trees. You know what I mean? Another employee questioned the forestry department's pattern of directly hiring people without adequate vetting. This seems shady and leads to an old and current image by employees at Oregon Department of Forestry that it's the good old boys club, or that's who you know, not what you know, says the complaint. Okay, well, I mean, if you look like this and you're working in the forestry industry, know what I'm saying? I mean, running a daycare? Sure, no issues there. But, forestry, you got to take your lumps. So I'm just saying. She got a bunch of tattoos. State officials redacted some of the names of those who filed complaints. Mikimoto, in a statement, said he takes employee complaints and concerns seriously. When brought to our attention, we ensure they're handled in accordance with state rules. Who cares? I don't really care. And best HR practices. You can tell I just don't really give a crap about these things. Treat people equally. The folks don't discriminate. The folks that do a good job, they're the ones you promote. The other ones who can't wipe their own rear end, and they get fired. That's just how this game is played. It's based on merit. It's based on who can do the work. It's based on who does the workload. Simple as that. This includes protecting employees from retaliation. He added, saying the agency is fully committed to DEI. He's just saying that. They're not. They could give a crap less. Yeah, and when they talk honestly, they're like, our industry is trees. Our industry is trees. We're not knitting. We're not talking about our feelings. It's trees. The $237,288 a year Forestry chief was appointed in 2021 and manages an agency of nearly 1,400 employees and a biennial budget of $577 million. And he's got some loose cannon with pink hair that's wildly overweight complaining about pronouns. All right. Yeah, there's that. Okay. Oh, yeah. Pretty much about it, right? Thanks for being here. Love to have you subscribe to all that good stuff. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.